Good morning, everybody. We're live here from the birdhouse. We are making our way through June. It is Saturday, June 7th, and we've got some updates for you about some of the birds people are seeing in their yards. We'll talk about some oriole stuff, hummingbirds, and we'll share some of your photos. Of course, we always like to know what kind of things you're seeing. You can put those in the comments. If you have any questions, you can throw those in there too, or you can just always say hi. We love to see who is on. First of all, if you are local, we do have some events going on this weekend, including a book signing today with Robin Flanagan, who is the author of the 100 Things to Do in Rochester Before You Die book. And we are actually in this book as one of the things to do in Rochester. So we are listed as one of the stores worth visiting. We're actually number 100 if you have this book. So Robin will be here today between 11 and 1 p.m. And then tomorrow, which is Sunday, we do have a hosta sale going on here with the Genesee Valley Hosta Society. So we do have some things that are planned this weekend. You can always see our event list on our website, which is thebirdhouseny.com, or we have them up on our Facebook page as well. So we've got all that going on. There are lots of baby birds out there right now. So if you see some small birds with the feathers aren't totally grown in yet, they've got kind of funky plumage, and they might be following around their parents begging for food, don't be surprised. There's lots of them out there. I've been noticing lots of baby house finches. As of yesterday, all of a sudden, a ton of little house finches have been around in my backyard. And they are following the parents around. They are learning their environment. They're learning the places to go to get food. So don't be surprised if you're starting to see more and more baby birds. It seems like there's more and more as the day goes on. So they are definitely hungry, and they're learning from their parents. The parents are taking them to their food sources. Some of the young are still hopping around on the ground, which is totally normal. Once they leave the nest, they tend to stay on the ground for a little bit. The parents will keep feeding them. And then as their feathers grow in a little bit more and they learn their surroundings, they start to disperse. So lots of babies like house finches, house sparrows. But you've probably been seeing lots of babies of them. Red-winged blackbird babies are out there. I've noticed lots of European starling young. They're going to have that black beak instead of the yellow one. They're not going to have as much speckling on them. They are out and about. So don't be surprised if you see some European starlings out there with their juveniles also learning the ropes of their environment. And baby blue jays are also starting to come out. Baby robins. So there's a ton of baby birds out there right now, including things like young chickadees. You might have young chickadees, young wrens. If you've got your birdhouses out, you might notice that you're getting young bluebirds if you're lucky enough to have bluebirds out there. So lots of baby birds out there, and we'll talk about feeding them in a little bit here too. We've also been getting lots of reports of pileated woodpeckers coming to feeders, and here's a photo sent in by Anne, who actually have the pileated coming to her finch favorite seed in her feeder, which is interesting. Usually we hear them coming to suet feeders or seed feeders eating sunflower seed or peanuts, but it looks like this pileated woodpecker is really liking the sunflower hearts that are in the finch favorite mix. So that was pretty unique. Lots of bluebird activity out there right now too. If you're lucky enough to get bluebirds, you might be seeing them with a whole bunch of new young babies out there. Bluebirds can have 2 or 3 broods a year, and that first brood is definitely out into the world for most of these bluebird parents. So those speckly little birds are out there trying to get the food from their parents, and mealworms are a really good thing you can feed them. Any kind of insect material is great for these birds. So the young will eat a lot of sunflower hearts usually too. That's a pretty safe thing to put out for the birds. The sunflower hearts doesn't have the hard shell around it, so it's easy for a lot of the birds to eat those sunflower hearts. Speaking of bluebirds, here's a bluebird sent in by our very own Kim, who works here. This is a female bluebird, and she is eating from a suet feeder. So you never know just what kind of birds might be coming to your feeders. They don't come to suet feeders all too often, but we do hear about it here and there, especially if the suet has some berries in it or has some insects in it. The bluebirds definitely come to the seed logs or the seed cakes that have the insects in it and the berries in it. So really cool photos here sent in by Kim. Now is definitely time to start including some of the live insect material like mealworms to your bird feeding repertoire. We're getting reports of young orioles chirping from nests. So sounds like those eggs have hatched for some of the orioles, meaning that the parents are on the hunt for insects to feed the young, and they will feed them soft-bodied insects. So things like caterpillars and spiders, things that don't have a really hard exoskeleton. They're easy for the young to digest, and you can supplement the food that you're offering now by putting out some insect material like mealworms. And we do have live mealworms. We have the freeze-dried mealworms. We got a nice big shipment of live mealworms in this week. So we have plenty of mealworms here for those birds. And they are also eating the jelly. We're getting lots of reports of the orioles still eating the jelly, catbirds coming to the jelly. So people have been having really good luck with getting the orioles to keep coming to their feeders, even with just the jelly alone. So that's been quite good news. But if you're trying to keep them coming, or if you want to give them a little bit something extra so they can feed their young a little bit more, mealworms are a fantastic way to go. So we do have different types of jelly here too. We've got the birdberry jelly, which is in the squeezy bottle. And we also have the jars of jelly. We've got the very berry jelly and the grape jelly. And we've had really great reports of both of those working well for the orioles. And some of them are also still drinking quite a bit of nectar. So it's a nice combination of foods you can put out there for the orioles still. And they'll be here all summer long. So this is what their nests look like. This is a picture that Mark had sent in a previous year of an oriole nest he came across, and you can see it's a woven kind of pendulous nest that'll hang from a branch of a tree. So keep an eye out for those because there's a lot of them out there. And we do have one of our best sellers back in stock too. Excuse me. This is the Oriole Flower Feeder, it's called. It's very popular because it's a little cup you can put jelly or mealworms in, and it has little spikes on it that you can spear oranges on. So those are back in stock. They were sold out with the manufacturer for a long time, but we do have more in stock. And then as far as hummingbirds go, we've been getting mixed reports of hummingbirds. Some people have a nice steady flow of them coming, but for the most part, a lot of people aren't seeing that many, and that's kind of been the way that the last few years have gone. It seems like not a ton of reports of hummingbirds. They're definitely back in the area. They're definitely around, but not a lot of people are reporting them consistently, I guess I should say. People have been seeing them, just maybe not every day or at the same time every day. So there are different things you can do to feed them. Of course, they like the nectar that are in feeders, which you can buy or you can make your own. We do have ready to use nectars. We have nectar mixes that you just add water to. And you can just always make your own nectar mix as well using sugar and water. The recipe is 1 part sugar to 4 parts water. Boil the water, add the sugar, and you let it cool and just put it in the feeder. You don't want to add any dyes or anything like that. It's not known if dyes can harm the hummingbirds in any way. They don't need the red dyes, so you don't need to add anything like that to the feeder. Another thing you can do is plant tubular plants for them to drink from, and we get lots of reports of once these flowers are in bloom, hummingbirds come to the feeders a little bit less, which makes sense. They like the different types of natural nectar that is out there. So hummingbird plants to fill your garden are another really great way to keep the hummingbirds coming. It seems like they come to feeders quite a bit in the early season when they're first migrating and they're super hungry. And then again, when they are leaving, when it's later in the summer, getting into the fall, and they're kind of stocking up on their calories to migrate back down south. Then they come to feeders a lot too. And then in the summer, it's just kind of a mixed bag. They're coming to feeders a little bit. They're coming to the hummingbird plants. So if you want to attract, if you want to even kind of increase your odds of attracting more hummingbirds, you can add a whole bunch of hummingbird plants to your garden, which are good for not only the hummingbirds, but they're good for butterflies and bees and other pollinators. There's a fantastic website that the Audubon has done, which is a native plant guide and native plant finder, which you can put in your zip code, and it'll tell you which plants you can put in your garden to attract different birds, including hummingbirds, but other birds too. So that's a really great resource if you're looking to add some bird-friendly plants to your garden. Check out the Audubon Society's Native Plant Guide. Another thing to keep in mind with your hummingbird feeders is keeping them clean. You want to make sure that there's no mold or anything like that in there. And one way you can keep those feeders clean is by brushing them out, especially those little feeding ports, which can be a little trap for mold. If you see anything black, that's kind of like a black gunk around those feeding ports, you want to definitely clean them out. We do have little brushes that get into some of those fine nooks and crannies. You can use things like these little brushes or pipe cleaners to clean those feeders. So we do have some different brushes to help you get into the feeders to keep them clean. And then there's also things you can do to keep the nectar fresh longer. Things like the Feeder Fresh Nectar Defender. You can add a little bit of this liquid to your hummingbird nectar, and it'll keep the nectar fresh longer for more like a week or 10 days instead of just a few days. So a lot of people will use this, and this is another way to keep your nectar fresh, and you don't have to change it out as often as you normally would. Another way to attract hummingbirds is with water, especially moving water. We hear reports of hummingbirds splashing around in small moving water features. They will also fly through moving water, things that create a mist. So you can get a mister that attaches to your hose that will make a fine mist. And you can also add things like the fountain inserts to your bird bath to move the water a little bit more, and they'll sometimes fly through some of the mist. And they're also known to drink from the little droplets right in the air. So that's another way you can attract them, is with some moving water. In general, birds are still nesting, even though there are quite a few babies out there right now. Many species will keep on nesting. Some birds only nest once a year, but others will keep on going, and including the goldfinches. They haven't even started yet. So one thing you can do to keep these birds around, as far as the nesting birds, or entice more to your yard, is also by putting out nesting material. Things like these little cotton nesting balls, the birds absolutely love. I'm still getting birds pulling them apart in my backyard, which is really fun to watch. And the goldfinches especially really, really love these nesting balls. And so they usually don't start nesting for about another month or so. And usually it's in July that they start nesting. So they're one of our latest nesting songbirds. But they absolutely love these nesting balls. So that, and then also if you are experiencing window strikes, we do have the decals to help keep the birds from striking the windows. I like to bring that up too, especially if there's a lot of young birds in your yard. You might see that they are a little bit awkward, and sometimes that results in running into things. So we definitely have the window decals to help prevent that. So thank you guys for watching. We will be back on Tuesday with another broadcast. Until then, I hope you have a great weekend. Step on in for some of our events we've got going on. I know some of you guys are signed up for our cruise tomorrow. We are doing one of our river cruises tomorrow morning. It is sold out. We still do have some seats open on some other cruises later on in the season. And so if you're interested in those, I would get tickets sooner rather than later, because they all have been selling out. So we'll see some of you on that river cruise tomorrow morning. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on Tuesday with our next broadcast. And so I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.